Want to know how getting stalked turned into the best thing that happened to me? I know you cried in the art room today. You don't have to be alone. I stared at the text on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. My hands started shaking because how did this person know about the art room? I'd hidden behind the pottery wheels during lunch when everything got too heavy and no one was supposed to be there. Who is this? I typed back immediately. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a message came through. Find where broken ceramics become whole again. That's your first clue to finding me. I should have blocked the number right there. Should have told a teacher or my dad or literally anyone. But something about the message made me curious instead of scared. Maybe it was because I'd been so alone for months that even a creepy stalker seemed better than the silence. I went to the ceramics classroom after school because that had to be what they meant about broken ceramics becoming whole. On the teacher's desk was a small origami crane made from notebook paper with my name written on it. Inside the crane was another message. You eat lunch in the empty chemistry lab. Next clue is where periodic tables become periodic fables. Whoever this was had been watching me for a while. The next clue led me to the library where I found another note tucked inside a book of chemistry puns. This person knew I stayed after school until 6 every day. They knew I sat in my car in the parking lot during school dances. They knew things no one should know because I was careful to hide everything. The reason I was so careful was because my mom had a mental breakdown 4 months ago. Not the kind where someone just needs a few days off work. The kind where the neighbors call 911 because she's in the front yard at 3 in the morning talking to people who aren't there. She was in a psychiatric facility now and had been since that night. My dad was drowning trying to keep everything together. He worked double shifts at his job, then came home to bills he couldn't pay and a house that was falling apart. I became the one who packed my little brother's lunches and checked his homework and made sure he had clean clothes. I couldn't have friends over because our kitchen table was covered in insurance paperwork and empty bottles my dad thought I didn't notice. The clues kept coming over the next few days. Each one showed this person had been watching me closely, but not in a scary way. They mentioned seeing me in places where I thought I was alone, but the messages were always kind. You're stronger than you think. Tomorrow will be better. That smile you fake is still beautiful. By the 5th day, I was actually looking forward to finding the next clue. It gave me something to think about besides the visiting hours at the facility or whether my dad remembered to eat dinner. The final clue arrived on Friday during last period, where stars tell stories when the building is empty. Come after the last bell. The astronomy classroom was on the 3rd floor and nobody used it after school. I pushed open the door expecting to find another note, but instead found Dalton sitting on one of the lab tables. He was in my English class, but we'd never talked. He was the quiet kid who sat in the back and actually did the reading. You? I said because I couldn't think of anything else. He jumped off the table and suddenly looked nervous, like maybe this wasn't going how he'd planned. Yeah, it's me. I know this is weird. I know I probably seem like a total creep right now. He was right, but I wasn't scared anymore, just confused. How did you know all that stuff about me? He shrugged and pulled out a notebook that made me take a step back. No, wait, it's not like that. I didn't write down stuff about you. These are notes I wrote to you but never sent. He handed me the notebook and I flipped through pages of messages he'd wanted to send me. They went back 2 months to when he'd first noticed me crying in my car after school. He'd gone through something similar last year when his mom left his family with no explanation, just packed up and disappeared one day, leaving him and his dad to figure out how to exist without her. He recognized the way I was drowning because he'd drowned the same way. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how to just walk up and start talking to you about heavy stuff, so I came up with the clues thing. I figured if I could give you something to solve every day, maybe you'd forget about the other stuff for a few minutes. I stood there looking at this boy who'd noticed my pain when everyone else was too busy with their own lives. You did all this just to distract me? He smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made me realize I hadn't really looked at him before. Sometimes a distraction is all we need to keep going. We talked until the janitor kicked us out at 6. He told me about his mom, and I told him about mine. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was carrying everything alone. As we walked to the parking lot, I pulled out my phone and texted him, "Your turn to find me tomorrow."